Hello, everyone. My name is Cheryl Hicks, and I'm the Executive Director and CEO of the Toilet Board Coalition. We are a business platform of partners building the sanitation economy. This is a video series that we've kicked off to really shed a spotlight on the many solutions that our partners are really bringing through the market for sanitation and hygiene at this critical time. And I'm really pleased to have with me today one of our newest partners, Days for Girls, and Diana Nelson, who is the Global Director for Advocacy, to really share with us how the work of Days for Girls is really supporting women and girls around the world through educational programs and enterprise development around menstrual hygiene. Diana, can you talk to us and share with us, what does Days for
Sure.
To support women and girls?
Yeah. Sorry, there's a little bit of a lag on there, so we'll try. Yeah, Days for Girls, we work to shatter stigma and limitations that surround and are associated with menstrual hygiene. We do this by providing washable pads that last 2 to 3 years, and we provide menstrual health education. And the way we do this is we set up locally led small businesses that we call enterprises that are led by women in their communities globally. And they manufacture our washable pads and sell them in the markets. And then they also teach our menstrual health education to try to change that stigma that is surrounded with menstruation often. And then my role as the Global Advocacy Director is I work with the governments around the globe. We've seen we have to have buy-in from governments in the menstrual health area to help dismantle limitations that come with menstruation. So I have the opportunity, along with some of our other office directors, to work with governments to put policies and systems in place to help do that. One of the areas that we focus on is improving conditions for menstrual hygiene management. And, you know, since we are, like you mentioned, we are new to the Toilet Board Coalition, and I believe we're one of the first that really focuses solely on menstrual hygiene. And so I just wanted to help people understand, how does menstrual hygiene fit into the overall, into the sanitation economy? And it's interesting because traditionally, when you look at menstrual hygiene, it's on the margins and it often gets overlooked in the sanitation economy, but yet the requirements for adequate menstrual health and what that means really overlaps strongly with the work that's traditionally done in the sanitation economy. I just want to give a quick 3 examples. So one of the things that we focus on in menstrual hygiene is the wash sector, that we make sure that the infrastructure, that the toilets are in place, that they're clean, that they are a private space, then the space is big enough for menstruators to change and deal with their disposal of products, that there's adequate water and soap, and it's in a safe environment that whether it's day or night, they feel they can go to. Another one is access to products. We want to make sure that menstruators can access safe, affordable, and accessible products that they can use to manage their menstruation. And then another way is we want to make sure they have knowledge and information to help them understand the menstrual process, and that they have that in a timely and accessible way. And you can see that that really parallels a lot of the work that's done in the sanitation economy, especially with the wash sector. But that's a little bit about what we do.
Absolutely. No, thank you, Diana. You know, as you said, I think the whole the overall sanitation and hygiene crisis, and really the goal that we all have to get to universal access is so important, and it's really increased in importance over the time of the toilet board. And what's really interesting, I think, about what Days for Girls is doing is not only supporting enterprises to develop in this area in low-income markets where there hasn't been access, which is so important, but also to support women to be the entrepreneurs in that space. And, you know, as the sanitation economy grows and new solutions continue to come into the marketplace, really solutions by women for women, I think will only increase. So fantastic. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that with us. into how the enterprises work and exactly what they do. Can you give us a little more detail on these
Sure.
enterprises?
Sure, I'd love to. So our enterprises consist of, like I said, local women who have, it's interesting, most of the women who have an enterprise have actually had a menstrual health need in their life. And so they're very passionate about this and they don't want anyone else to struggle the way they struggled through school without having menstrual supplies. So typically we have them apply to, we have a cohort that they apply to, and then they go through several rounds of interviews, and then basically we give them training. We just switched our program. It's a year-long training now where they get sewing skills on how to sew our washable pads, because we have what we call a gold certified certification, where we can ensure that if you get a Days for Girls washable pad, it will last between 2 to 3 years because it's been sewed to a certain standard. And so we teach them that standard. We give them marketing skills to be able to go out and market this on their own in their communities. We do advocacy work for them, teach them advocacy skills so they can partner with governments and other NGOs and people's working in the wash sector, or the SRHR field, to be able to link up. And then we also teach them some business skills, how to do bookkeeping. And so it's kind of a whole plethora of skills. And so when they leave our training, then they are able to be a self-sustaining enterprise that then they can employ as many people as they want. It depends on how many orders they get. Days for Girls International, oftentimes we can push orders to them because we get orders, people come to us, and then they also are out getting their own orders. It's interesting, some enterprises do door-to-door sales, some go to markets, some work with the schools, and there's really no two enterprises that look alike because they're each in different regions. They each have different cultural things that they're dealing with. But that's about how they work. So they sign up, we train them, and then they go out and do the marketing and sales.
Fantastic, thank you.
Uh-huh.
And you're currently in Kampala, Uganda right now, and so if there are delays for those watching, that is part of it. But you're there sort of on the ground. Can you tell us about where you're operating? Where are you supporting these women entrepreneurs around the world?
Great question. And thank you for explaining the lag, because a few times I haven't heard you. So if I'm looking kind of strange, it's because I'm trying to figure out the lag. So we support women all around the world. We have 4 offices. We have one in Nepal, one in Ghana, one here in Kampala, and one in Guatemala. And then they set up like a region. So Uganda's office looks over East Africa. So we have enterprises all throughout East Africa, and then in West Africa. We also have them in South Africa, in Malawi, in Zimbabwe. We have a few in India. Really in South and Central America is just, we have some in Mexico, one in Peru, and then in Guatemala. But they're kind of interspersed all around. We have some in Cambodia, in Laos. We're kind of everywhere, but we divide it by region, and each office oversees the different enterprises globally.
And how long have you been operating, and how many women entrepreneurs have you helped to catalyze?
Oh, that's a great question. Days for Girls started in 2008. And what was interesting is it just started with getting washable pads to the women and girls. We started out more as a charity and volunteers making it. And then we quickly shifted to a hybrid model when we started distributing them. And the local women were like, we need this. Why can't we make it? And we're like, of course. So then we started working on supply chain, and we came up with our program. And I believe the enterprise program has been around the last 5 years, and we've done a lot of best practices looking at like 1 year we stopped it to look at why are some enterprises doing so well, why are some other businesses really struggling, and we put into play the best practices. And I am sorry that I don't know the exact number. I can tell you we have around 165 small enterprises. And I don't have an exact figure because, like, I'm thinking in South Africa, one of our enterprises there has 10 people. They're up in the Johannesburg area. And then another one that's in the Cape Town area has like three people. So it's really varies. I don't have an exact number, but we do have around 165 enterprises that
Wow, wow. No, that's impressive, and growing. I'm assuming, but we'll get to that because this is so interesting. On the journey of these, can you talk about, a few of the women entrepreneurs' stories of growth? Do they, how do they grow with their businesses in their communities, and what are some of the things that they scale up to?
Yeah, that is such a good question. Just as I said, the numbers are different for every enterprise. So also is the way they do their work. And so although we have that 165, they all are functioning at very different capacities. One person in particular that comes to mind is Chipo in Zimbabwe. So when she actually was from the US, it's called a fellow, an Obama fellow. She was sent to the US to learn some skills there. She's like, I've got to help my women in my country with menstrual hygiene. She knew it was holding so many back. And when she was there, she was referred to us. She learned about us. She came back and she just started making connections. She was very strategic in her planning. She would, for example, she applied for some green innovative awards, which she said, it was kind of, she was on the peripheral with menstrual health, but she knew that a washable pad was good for the environment. So she put together her portfolio and went in, and she said, I knew it would put me in front of people who would like what I was saying. Whether or not I won the award or not, I knew I could speak to them. So she went in, and from that, she won the award. And then exactly as she said, the people who were the judges for this prize, they really liked what she was doing, referred her. They had time with her. They got interviews. They referred her to more people. And in the end, she was able to make a deal with the First Lady of Zimbabwe through her private charity to be a partner with her. And so she just scaled up and up as she worked just kind of was very strategic in looking at who are the players in this arena, how do I get in front of them. Another example would be from Bomet County, Anita in Kenya. This is actually really tragic. A year ago, I think it was in September, a girl ended up committing suicide because she was shamed at school from her period. It was her first time. She didn't know what was happening. And I know it was no fault of the teacher. I don't know exactly what was said. But she went home. She was told to go home and clean herself, and they couldn't find her later. And later they found her. She had committed suicide. And so our enterprise leader, Anita, was in that county, in that town actually working, and everybody knew she did menstrual health. So immediately the school called her and said, Anita, can you come over? And so Anita was able to go into the school, and she found out that the education, she didn't understand what menstrual hygiene was. And you can imagine how scary that would be as a young girl, and then having to be humiliated by something you didn't know what was happening to your body. And so Anita then was able to go around to the health workers and talk to them about the education and how important it is that this doesn't happen to anyone else. So they all then partnered with her to come in and train their healthcare workers on how to do menstrual hygiene. And then along with that, they wanted the product. And she has just now become the expert in Beaumont County for menstrual health and how she's scaling up. And there's several other stories, but really it's women taking advantage of when they see things happening in their communities, being at the right place at the right time, and being bold with the message. Because one thing that's really hard is menstrual health is still very uncomfortable to talk about for many, many people. Like even in the US, it's you don't talk about your periods in the US. And so we're asking these women to go out and talk about subjects that in the sanitation economy are a lot harder to talk about than a toilet. But they're willing to do it, and because of their courage and their experience, they're getting out and they're meeting people, and then they're able through these opportunities to get funding to help scale up, to get more sewing machines, to get more fabric, to get a bigger center, and it kind of goes from there.
Thank you. We in our accelerator program, our sanitation economy accelerator program at the Toilet Board, we talk about pathways to scale, and I think those two examples are great examples of the pathways to scale and the learnings of these women. How do you share? I'm just thinking about again the sharing these learnings across the enterprises. Do you have ongoing support after the initial training where they can also get support on some of these pathways to scale opportunities?
Great question. Yes, actually, every month we have what's called an enterprise liaison, and every month they have to fill out impact reports so we can track the work that they're doing, so we can track their impact. And every month they have a call from this liaison, and they build this relationship, and they're able to then share concerns, worries. At the same time, this liaison is able to pass on information and learnings and documents, and then we can track through their impact reports what they're doing. And then we have in the past, we've been doing annual regional conferences where we bring them together. So like Southern Africa got together, Eastern Africa, Western Africa, Nepal. We've had grants where we've been able to bring all the people together, and we've been able to do training on advocacy, on ways to scale up, and give them examples of different opportunities that different enterprises are doing. And that's been really invaluable for two reasons. One, it's helped them see that they're not alone in their business, because oftentimes they're in their communities working and they feel very isolated. So when they're able to come together with other people doing the same work, they see that they really are a part of a bigger picture. And then they get on WhatsApp groups and they can support each other. And so these are different ways that we've been able to help them keep the passion going, keep the training going, and help them build their network among each other.
Fantastic. I mean, it's truly impressive. Over 5 years, almost 200 women enterprises that you really helped to catalyze and support. So what is the future goal? I mean, what is how many enterprises are you looking to support in the next few years, or what is your future trajectory for your agenda?
Again, a great question. So I want to clarify that, so when we started out, at first we were just so excited that people wanted to do it that we said, yes, come on board. And then, like I said, we had stopped and looked at best practices, because we realized just because people want to be involved does not mean they're going to be successful. And so then we started putting not restrictions, but we had to have requirements. Like, if you can meet this and this and this, then you can be a part. And so I would say a lot of our growth came in the first few years of when we opened up the enterprise program. And in the last 2 years, we've been very strategic, because we did look at those, like over 100, because now we're 165. But why were some of them just flourishing, like in Zimbabwe and in Kenya? And why were some in Malawi just really struggling? And so as we looked at what was making a successful one, we put that into our programming, and now we've limited. So we've stopped our growth. So last year we only allowed, I believe it was 10 to come in that we could train, and we extended our training, because before, in the very beginning, it was 2 weeks. They would fly up to Uganda or fly to Ghana somewhere, and they would do all hands-on training for 2 weeks. But we realized that's really not enough. So then we extended it, and now this time we've extended it for a year, where some will be online, some will be in person. And then we have limited how many we have let in, because we want to see them all succeed. We don't want some that are out there like this and some here and some here. And so to avoid that, we have limited how many are going, and we're so that we can actually have more control and more help and support for those. And so that's where we're at now. So we only allow, before we used to have a revolt, people could apply anytime they wanted. Now we have once a year. They have a 3-week window where they can apply. I think we got 75 applications a year ago, and we only chose 10. And so they have once a year now. We go through them. They're interviewed. Sometimes we do site visits, because we just really want to ensure that we set them up for the greatest success and to be sustainable. And so it's an organic process, and we're learning, and I think we're almost there.
Thank you, Diana. Thank you for sharing with us the supporting women entrepreneurs to bring new solutions for menstrual hygiene in the markets where it's most critical. Thank you so much, and we're so happy to be partnering with you.
Same.
Namaste.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Namaste. Thank you.